Hello and welcome back to another Perspectives. And I wanted to talk a little bit about a subject that I spoke about in a recent interview, or two interviews, and one with On Times and one with Legalized Freedom, and also based on the essay I recently published called The Metaverse and Extended Reality, and is it a containment field for humanity? Because this subject is becoming part of the larger picture. And what I wanted to pick up on specifically was the fallacy of materialism, what I call the material fallacy, because I think that there's a kind of uh, agenda behind the main narratives to try to present this kind of virtual immersion in the digital ecosystem, which is the metaverse. It's not about just going into like previously you go into a game and you're controlling your avatar in the game. There you have a kind of distance between you. What the metaverse represents is more like what we know as the Matrix, or what was um, shown in the Ready Player One book and film, is that it's a full kind of immersion into this virtual reality. And we tend to have this idea, especially with kind of spiritual pseudo new age type of thinking, that we have the talk about the ethereal body and the astral body, and that these bodies beyond the human physical body are kind of like, metaphysical, or even kind of spiritual or pseudo spiritual. And the metaverse is also a kind of going out of your body. And there may be some kind of transhumanist new age tropes around this. But in fact, for me, what I sense is that going into the metaverse, this immersion into a virtual digital reality, is in fact a deeper materialism, an over materializing materialism, if it were, rather than a kind of move away from materialism. And that's because we tend to think, or rather, the narrative is that if it's solid, something that we're used to in the solid physical world that you could touch, then it's material. But when it starts to become non-solid, all that is solid melts into air, as they say, then it's moving away from materialism. But I would argue that this is the fallacy. This is the entrapment of thinking. And in fact, we're moving deeper into the layers of materiality. Just like the film Inception, the Christopher Nolan film that came out in 2010, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. In this film, the protagonist has to enter a target's dreaming mind, and then to get deeper and deeper into the layers of the dreaming, deeper and deeper into every subconscious layer, to get past the defense mechanisms of the dreaming mind in order to plant a program or a seed or a change of mind. So when the person wakes up, they think the thought is their own. And just like that, I feel that this immersion into a digital virtual environment, the metaverse, is a deeper layer of the dreaming, deeper into physicality, because you have to understand that these digital virtual environments are created by computers, algorithms, AI, that therefore they come from a material base of creation. They come from a hardware which has to create the software. And of course, these computers and these computerized domains are fed by electricity, again, coming through a material paradigm. So it's not a move away from materiality. It's, for me, it's a move into a further entrapment of materiality, but it's less solid. It's less physical, but it doesn't mean because it's less physical that it's less material. Materiality can be a mode of consumption. It can be a lifestyle and a mode of behavior. And so this kind of, I feel, deeper entrapment into these platforms and these virtual worlds is actually less physical, but more material. And and so therefore it's deep into the layers of the dreaming. But also what I feel that the issue here or the danger here is that the more we move away from our physical body into these domains, the more time we spend in these domains, we're actually going a step further away from contact with spirit consciousness or source consciousness or field consciousness, because the human body is a receptor of the consciousness field. And the human body is an organic, carbon based life form. And that has evolved over a very long time, a huge evolutionary time in our lifespan. And it has developed to be able to receive, let's say, frequencies beyond the body, frequencies, resonance, information, and consciousness. Because that's the part of, let's say, the organic domain. But if we go further, or if humanity is persuaded or shifted or pushed further into this artificial construct of a digital virtual ecosystem, then that's further away from the organic realm and further iteration away from receiving these frequencies or consciousness. And so that could be the danger there. And in fact, I would say even that it's a move further towards synthetic consciousness, because the consciousness that we are used to, that we call human consciousness, comes through organic life, which I said human is a carbon-based organic being. And right now, there's a lot of narratives, a lot of discussion, which is demonizing carbon. I mean, carbon is the gas of life. We need it for life on this planet. It's almost as if this is a kind of terraforming, whereby you're terraforming the environment upon the earth to go towards a more artificial construct, whereby we are within a kind of infrastructure ecosystem, which is digital physical, which is full of data mining, AI controlled surveillance, and everything is going more digital. Our money is going digital, our identities are going digital, and this also is kind of not only terraforming the environment from a carbon-based organic environment to a more inorganic environment. The more that we have an intelligence which is more enabled for this artificial construct, you could call it more of a synthetic intelligence. If you spend more time immersed in these environments, these digital virtual environments, then the intelligence will start to adapt to that. The intelligence adapts to the environment that you spend time in, just as if the human intelligence has adapted from being on a physical planet Earth. So right now, for example, my generation and the generation before me, and my parents and their parents, their intelligence was adapted to a physical world. It was only in the last generation or so that the digital world has started to come in. Now, for example, my parents their intelligence is not adjusted to technology. Doesn't mean that they're not clever or wise, but their intelligence is not as adapted to using technology. They don't use apps on their phone, for example, and they use a minimal of technology, whereby my generation was the first generation to enter the digital age, let's say. So, we got the first smartphones and we started using apps on our smartphone. But really, I just use my phone as a communication device. I don't have many apps at all, just a couple of communication apps. And I'm quite astounded why the younger generation now, a further iteration, are all the time using their apps. They're using that, it's very normal for them to pay by their phone. Everything they do is on their devices. They spend all the time watching the devices. Their intelligence has been shifted, or rather, the environment that they're living in or spend most of their time in has been terraformed for an intelligence that is adapted to this use of technology. Now, imagine a further iteration, a further generation. The, the, uh, I think human civilization is getting pushed towards an environment that's been terraformed to be more amenable to a certain type of intelligence, an intelligence that knows how to work through technologies and accepts the intrusion of technologies into human life. But we could say that that is a move further away from the organic environment and intelligence to the inorganic, one that is more adapted to interact and live alongside AI infrastructures and ecosystems. And so I think we just have to be mindful of that and aware, because we have to ask if that terraforming is always going to be for our benefit of the human organic being. And if not, then what type of intelligence is it more amenable to? Just as a case in point, the Austrian mystic Rudolf Steiner was saying over 100 years ago, in the turn of the 1900s, turn of the 20th century, that he said that in the future, if we have a human civilization dominated by electricity, there's a danger there, because he regarded electricity as a sub-form of light. And that's because we have the sun, and the sun is the motor of life, the generator of life in this quadrant, in this solar system. All the planets rely on that. We would not have life on Earth without the sun. That's a natural light, and we all are aware of that. And then we have electricity, which is generated power that produces light. And we know that that's not natural light. We know that if we spend too much time indoors in front of our monitor screens, we feel the effects of that, and we need to go out and have natural light. We know that because of deficiency in vitamin D, for example. And Rudolf Steiner said that not only is electricity a lower form of light, it's what he called subnature. Natural light belongs to nature, electricity belongs to subnature. And within subnature, Steiner did say that that is amenable to other forms of intelligence, form what he referred to as Ahrimanic beings, what I've referred to as entropic forces. Certain intelligences or forces that are more amenable to the inorganic environment via electricity. And so I won't go too deep into the Ahrimanic forces. I have discussed it in one or two essays. But you can see here the distinction between natural light and artificial light, nature and subnature. Now, these two may have to exist. Nothing wrong with having a world with electricity. If not, I wouldn't be speaking here now without electricity. But we have to find a balance between a life accessing natural light and a life immersed in artificial light. And if we do not get that balance right, then it could be detrimental to the human organic body. And it wouldn't surprise me that the more time that humanity spends in this artificial construct ecosystem, that we may in the end start to shift over our focus on our gods. We all know that it is said that humanity always conceives of their creator or God figure in a likeness. That's how we tend to anthropomorphize our religious, spiritual type of connections or relations. And if we are going more into an inorganic construct, which is created by AI and run by AI and monitored by AI, it wouldn't be surprising. I'm sure they've probably already started a kind of, pseudo spiritual religious organizations that see AI as the God. And so it may have the AI God as becoming more of a kind of accepted religious type of institution, ideology, concept. It's probably started already. Because also in kind of traditional religious understanding or teachings or settings, we have the notion of the light body. That's why we have many of the saints pictured with an aura around them. When people talk about the illumination, humanity strives for illumination according to religious doctrine, and that sometimes religious figures and prophets have been seen surrounded by illumination, the light body. Now, that can be replaced by the sublight body, the avatar, the body of electricity. Again, we have all these kind of notions that can be, very easily shifted more on an organic context to an inorganic context, whether it's light body, electricity body, a kind of older established religious heritage to an AI religious context. All these are possible. And we may even consider that the passage of humanity through this digital virtual world, or the metaverse world, as a type of dystopia, could be seen as the mythological journey through the underworld. That in order for humanity to be transfigured and transformed into a developed, more evolved species, it has to pass through this dark night of the soul, this dark world under journey, in order to come back into the light, which makes sense allegorically, because if we go into this digital virtual type of world or realm that's lit by sub-nature electricity, we have to live or move through this to again move out towards the natural light. A bit similar to the allegory of Plato's cave. You have to move amongst the shadows, which are the secondary forms of the sublight produced by the natural light outside the cave. So these are things to consider, and I just wanted to bring them forth. All these, I'm not saying anything definite, but when we have these narratives about the metaverse and moving into a deeper immersion into the physical, digital, virtual environment, we should keep these things in mind. The organic realm, the connection, the relationship, the reception of consciousness and source consciousness, the nature of light, sublight, and nature and subnature, and the terraforming of this planet and the terraforming of our consensus reality. So these are just some thoughts for this perspectives, and thanks for listening, and until next time. Cheers.